Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to give a brief report on how my dad's limited entry mule deer hunt went in Utah. I'm going to talk about the cartridge he picked and the bullet he picked and how specifically that bullet performed on that mule deer. And I'll just say this, I was very surprised at how the bullet performed. And if you're wondering why I didn't film the hunt, why I didn't show the deer getting shot and just how awesome the buck that he got. He's not a big fan of being on YouTube, so out of respect for him, I just have pictures and I'll just tell the story with some pictures. First off, let's talk about the cartridge of choice that he took. A couple years ago, he bought a 6.5 PRC in a Savage 110 ultralight that has a proof research barrel, which is a carbon fiber barrel, and the gun has just been shooting lights out. Originally, he developed his load with Retumbo, with this bullet, the 143 grain ELDX, and I mean, the first group he ever got with it was almost quarter MOA, just really good, and it was getting close to 3,000 feet per second. I thought it was a little odd. The cartridge was not getting the velocity we thought it would, but honestly, you could probably chalk that up to being the barrel being pretty new and hasn't sped up yet, because the eventual load that he took and shot the deer with, it was going a bit faster with about the same weight bullet. So if you're wondering why he didn't stick with the 143 grain ELDX load with Retumbo, well, it wasn't very consistent. Sometimes he's getting sub half MOA, other times he's getting 1.5 inch groups with it. So he just didn't like the inconsistency with this load, and again, it wasn't going really that fast. It was going a little faster than what you could get from the factory ammo. So he decided to switch over to a Berger. Sorry, I don't have the specific Berger bullet that he used, but he decided to use a Berger 140 grain VLD. Closest thing I have, here's a VLD. This is in 30 caliber, a 210 grain. This was literally like a week before the hunt. He developed this load. It was shooting consistently sub half MOA with it, and he really liked the velocity he was getting. He was getting around 3,050 feet per second, so I do think the barrel sped up. Let's briefly talk about the unit that he drew out, and he's been putting in this for a long time. It's called the Book Cliff South, and if you're somewhat familiar with Utah, basically if you're heading east on I-70 towards Colorado, on the right side, about 50 miles south of you, is Moab. And then on the left, about 20 miles north of you, is what we call the Book Cliffs. And the Book Cliff South, it basically is right up against the cliffs and right up the top. And on average, I think it takes around 14 points to draw out with this tag. And so he actually had 17. He had been building them up 3 or 4 years ago. We had a really bad drought in Utah that really hurt the deer population, and so he was just kind of waiting to make sure that there were some good deer before he went and drew his tag. So let's talk about how he got his deer. So the second day of the hunt, we decided to go for a morning drive at first light. My younger brother was in my truck, and literally 50 yards off the road, he spotted a doe. And my dad and my older brother were in a Ranger that were ahead of us. Well, we looked at the doe real quick, we stopped, and then my younger brother in my truck realized there was a shooter buck that was with these does. And he's like, dude, you got to go. We got to go tell my dad. So we hurried and drove up to him. Thankfully, he decided to stop about 100 yards ahead and pull into this clearing and look at some other deer. Funny enough, they did not see the huge buck that we did. And so my brother hurried running up to him and said, look to your left, that's a shooter buck. And it didn't take long for my dad to say, yeah, I'm going to take that one. And the official shot was 104 yards away. The deer was quartering to him a bit, but he still had a decent broadside shot. So he put the shot right in the heart. It did go through the lungs. It took one shot. The deer jumped up a little, and then he maybe went 5 yards and then tipped over. I mean, he was dead within 20 seconds. It wasn't a bang flop, but it was pretty close to it. So I would say the bullet performed pretty darn well. The deer did not run away, and he died pretty quickly. And when we initially got up to the buck, we did not find an exit wound, which we're like, oh, okay, that's the Berger living up to its marketing, which is that it goes in and basically explodes, which can kill things pretty quickly. But then once we started to gut it and take the hide off, we realized, oh, there was an exit wound, and it was tiny. One of my regrets was just not showing the exit wound and what the internal organs looked like when it was hit with the Berger. We were just all so excited, and I was just kind of in the mindset, I'm not doing a video on this, so I'm not going to take pictures or really film. But I got to say that exit wound was maybe a little bit bigger than the diameter, the 6.5 millimeter diameter. You could easily cover up the exit wound with a penny, and it kind of surprised me. I was thinking with that bullet kind of blowing up that if it did exit, it was going to be, well, a bit bigger than the diameter of the bullet, but that just wasn't the case. Now, when we looked at the organs, I do think the bullet did expand. I'm not saying that this bullet just penciled through. I think what most likely happened is it did open up, and whatever was left of the jacket went straight through the deer. But the damage on the inside was not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be all mush, and it really wasn't. Now, did the bullet really fail? I don't know. I mean, obviously not. We got a dead deer. He took only one shot, and he went 5 yards and plopped over. So I don't think the bullet killed the deer, and it killed it relatively effective. But I guess it does come down again to was, did it really blow up inside like it's marketed? I'm not sure. I definitely think it could have been more violent expansion. Now, I've heard stories of some really big Berger fans that won't hunt with the VLD because, according to them, it does pencil through. It doesn't expand as well as some of their other bullets. And so far, I'm almost agreeing with them. And so I just wanted to share my thoughts on how the VLD did. Again, guys, it was a dead deer. It was effective, but I guess it just didn't expand like I thought it would.